the morning.
Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We are thrilled to bring you the latest, most intense deep dive into the complex web of Genoa City's shifting alliances and romantic entanglement. Grab a cup of coffee and settle in as we explore the psychological depths of your favorite characters. The suffocating silence of an empty apartment has become Audra Charles's most constant companion, a stark reminder of the romantic desolation defining her private life. For a woman whose existence is built on the thrill of strategic manipulation, this romantic isolation is a bitter pill. Her desperate, futile attempts to repair her fractured relationship with Nate Hastings left a festering wound in her psyche. Nate could not peer past the labyrinth of lies that form Audra's survival instincts. His rejection was a profound moral judgment, striking at her core insecurities. Nate's inability to forgive her machinations forced Audra to confront the terrifying reality that her formidable intellect and ruthless pragmatism are the exact weapons that systematically destroyed her chances at genuine emotional connection, leaving her entirely untethered in a city where she is surrounded by people but profoundly alone. Driven by the agonizing sting of Nate's moral superiority, Audra has channeled every ounce of her restless energy into the singular sanctuary she has left, her career. Spectra Charles has become far more than a business venture. It is her armor, her coping mechanism, and the only realm where her ruthless calculations are rewarded. Throwing herself into the intricate daily operations alongside Sally Spectra, Audra uses the relentless grind of corporate warfare to numb the persistent ache of her romantic failures. She meticulously analyzes market trends and constructs impenetrable strategies, desperate to convince herself that power substitutes for human intimacy. Yet, beneath the unflappable exterior of the ultimate corporate mercenary, a desperate hunger grows. The boardroom victories do nothing to warm the cold reality of her evenings, leaving her vulnerable to the dangerous allure of any spark that might reignite her suppressed passion. This fragile, work-obsessed equilibrium is currently severely tested by the shadowy complexities surrounding the recent surrender of Newman Media. Audra's inherently suspicious nature is on high alert regarding the secret financial compensation orchestrated by Adam Newman. She views the entire transaction through a lens of extreme wariness, her razor-sharp mind constantly dissecting Adam's hidden motive. This high-stakes corporate maneuver has inadvertently forced Audra into close, continuous proximity with Adam, sparking a tense, electrifying dynamic between two of Genoa City's most notorious schemers. Every interaction is a delicate dance of veiled threats and mutual distrust. Audra refuses to take Adam's pragmatic explanations at face value, knowing a Newman never parts with power without a self-serving agenda. This constant state of hypervigilance is slowly morphing into a dangerous psychological fixation on the man orchestrating the chaos. The escalating tension surrounding the Newman Media deal has inevitably drawn Chelsea Lawson into the fray, creating a suffocating atmosphere of defensive posture. Chelsea, desperately clinging to the fragile illusion of domestic stability she painstakingly constructed for Connor, views Audra's relentless probing as a direct threat to her family's hard-won peace. Audra, with predatory instincts sharply honed, quietly observes the frantic energy underlying Chelsea's fierce defense of Adam. She sees the invisible cracks in the foundation of their seemingly perfect reconciliation. Audra recognizes that Chelsea is desperately trying to protect Adam from himself, terrified the corporate stress might trigger a devastating regression into his destructive tendencies. This dynamic fascinates Audra, as she watches Chelsea exhaust herself trying to domesticate a man whose very nature is defined by rebellion, sensing the walls of their comfortable prison closing in. Within this suffocating environment of forced domesticity, Adam's own psychological fractures begin to quietly reveal themselves to Audra's discerning eye. Adam is currently playing the role of the devoted, reformed family man with almost theatrical desperation, desperate to provide Connor with a stable environment. However, the underlying darkness and insatiable ambition of the Newman bloodline cannot be entirely eradicated by cozy family dinners. Audra, a fellow architect of her own destruction, recognizes this suppressed chaos with the clarity of a kindred spirit. She looks past the carefully curated facade of the repentant father and sees the lingering shadows of the ruthless corporate warrior who once burned down everything in his path. Audra understands the agonizing toll it takes to pretend to be a saint when your soul is forged in manipulation, and this shared, unspoken understanding forms the foundation of a deeply dangerous psychological connection. What begins as acute corporate wariness and analytical observation is rapidly evolving into a potent, undeniable romantic fascination. The sheer friction of their combative interactions is generating a crackling magnetic pull between Audra and Adam, a gravitational force fueled by their mutual moral ambiguity and shared history of being outcast. Audra finds herself increasingly captivated by the very darkness in Adam that terrifies Chelsea. In Adam, Audra sees a man who would never look at her with the clinical, judgmental disappointment that Nate Hastings weaponized against her. Adam is intimately acquainted with the darkest corners of the human heart, understanding that survival often requires getting blood on your hands. The prospect of a romance with Adam offers Audra an intoxicating escape from the moral superiority of those who rejected her, presenting a tantalizing opportunity to align herself with an equal who would celebrate her ruthless ambition. This brewing, unspoken attraction presents an apocalyptic threat to Chelsea Lawson's fiercely guarded peace. Chelsea, a woman who spent years operating as a con artist before clawing her way toward respectability, possesses incredibly sharp survival instincts. Her acute intuition is already picking up on the subtle, dangerous shift in Audra's gaze whenever Adam enters the room. Chelsea can sense the predatory calculation in the younger woman's demeanor, realizing with a cold spike of terror that Audra is actively measuring the vulnerabilities of Chelsea's relationship. The rising panic within Chelsea is magnified by her own deep-seated insecurities. She knows the intoxicating allure of the dark side, and she is terrified that Audra represents a living temptation that Adam might not possess the willpower to resist. Chelsea is suddenly thrust into a silent, desperate war to protect her family from an adversary who fights with no rules and respects no boundaries. The vulnerability of Adam and Chelsea's reconciliation is further exacerbated by the undeniable reality that their relationship has slowly descended into a state of comfortable, profoundly uninspiring stagnation. While their mutual devotion to Connor is absolute, the volatile passion that once defined their most iconic moments has been entirely smothered by the exhausting blanket of domestic responsibility. They have become so focused on avoiding the toxic cycles of their past that they inadvertently sterilize their romance, leaving an emotional void yearning to be filled by something unpredictable. This narrative complacency makes them incredibly susceptible to external interference. With the shifting tides of the creative forces shaping Genoa City's destinies, the unspoken rule is that no couple's happiness is guaranteed, and the comfortable boredom of Adam and Chelsea's current dynamic is begging for a catastrophic disruption that only a wildcard like Audra could provide. However, the path to claiming Adam Newman is obstructed by a monumental moral conflict that threatens to tear Audra apart, her relationship with Sally Spectra. In the cold world of Genoa City, Sally is the solitary anchor of genuine friendship Audra has managed to secure. Sally is the only person offering Audra unwavering loyalty and a safe harbor devoid of judgment. Yet, the history between Sally and Adam is a deeply scarred saga of lost love and tragic circumstances. Audra is acutely aware that acting on her growing desires for Adam would constitute the ultimate, unforgivable betrayal of the only woman who truly has her back. The psychological barrier this presents is staggering. Audra must wrestle with the horrifying realization that pursuing the intoxicating thrill of a romance with Adam would require her to maliciously break the heart of her only friend, forcing her to decide if this passionate connection is worth completely isolating herself once again. Beyond the devastating personal betrayal, Audra's potential pursuit of Adam carries the terrifying risk of absolute professional suicide. Spectra Charles is not merely a job, it is Audra's entire identity, her financial lifeline, and the only tangible proof of her worth. Sally is the majority power and the creative soul of the company. If Audra crosses the ultimate line and tangles with Adam, she guarantees the total annihilation of her professional partnership. Sally would never tolerate such a profound violation of trust, and Audra would find herself unceremoniously stripped of her position, power, and purpose. The agonizing calculus Audra must perform is a brutal test of her priorities. She must weigh the explosive high of a forbidden romance with a notorious Newman against the permanent destruction of the career she sacrificed everything to build, knowing that, if the gamble with Adam fails, she will be left with absolutely nothing but the ashes of her reckless decisions. Meanwhile, Adam is quietly fighting a brutal internal war that leaves him entirely susceptible to Audra's gravitational pull. The suffocating weight of being the steadfast, morally upright partner Chelsea requires is beginning to fracture his resolve. Every day is an exhausting performance of restraint, a constant suppression of the ruthless instincts defining his existence. When he looks at Audra, he does not see a woman demanding he conform to a standard of traditional goodness. Instead, he sees a reflection of his own ambition, a woman whose moral compass is delightfully skewed. The temptation Audra represents is a profound psychological relief. She offers the intoxicating promise of a space where he can drop the exhausting facade of the reformed hero and simply exist as the complex, dangerous man he truly is. The allure of being seen and accepted for his darkest traits by a woman as captivating as Audra is a siren song threatening to shatter his fragile peace with Chelsea. The convergence of these volatile psychological forces is creating a pressure cooker of unspoken desires, profound betrayals, and inevitable devastation. The atmosphere whenever Audra, Adam, and Chelsea occupy the same space is thick with a suffocating tension that threatens to ignite at the slightest provocation. Audra's initial wariness has been entirely consumed by a predatory focus, her eyes tracking Adam with a hunger born of deep loneliness and an insatiable need to conquer the unattainable. Chelsea's frantic attempts to fortify the walls of her relationship only highlight the vulnerabilities she is so desperate to hide, inadvertently providing Audra with the exact blueprint needed to dismantle their happiness. The tragic irony is that in their desperate bid to maintain a peaceful existence, Adam and Chelsea created the perfect emotional vacuum for a storm like Audra to exploit. The impending collision of these three deeply flawed individuals is a narrative inevitability. As the shadows lengthen over Genoa City, Audra Charles stands alone on the precipice of a catastrophic decision, the intoxicating allure of blowing up her own life proving far more powerful than the safety of her current trajectory. The silence of her empty apartment is no longer a reminder of her isolation, but a canvas upon which she is meticulously plotting her next, most dangerous conquest. She understands the monumental collateral damage her actions will cause: the destruction of her friendship with Sally, the potential loss of her career at Spectra Charles, and the cruel shattering of Chelsea and Connor's delicate family unit. Yet, the cold calculation in her eyes betrays a woman who has decided that the warmth of the fire is worth burning down the entire house. As she contemplates the quiet, desperate hunger in Adam Newman's eyes, a chilling question hangs heavy in the suffocating air. When a woman as ruthless and emotionally starved as Audra Charles decides she is tired of being alone, who will be the first to bleed in the beautiful, agonizing wreckage she is about to create?